Acceptance is what we're going to talk about next. Acceptance is one of the most difficult concepts for parents to adopt when it comes to their children. However, acceptance is also one of the most impactful and powerful tools and concepts that we have when we engage our children. So it breaks down to 4 different areas. The first area that we're going to talk about with acceptance has to talk about honoring autonomy. However, when we're honoring autonomy, we're also looking at age appropriateness, safety, and supervision. So honoring autonomy, what does that mean? Well, it means that we honor someone's choice. We honor the fact that the person's an individual and will make choices. If you don't believe me, just think about any situation where you've gone and you've told your child what to do or how to do something, and then you go off into some other room or some other place and you come back and they either didn't do it, they did it differently than what you told them to do, or they got completely distracted and went and did something else, right? So they have choice. They'll make choices and do things. Now, when we honor the fact that they do have choice, it makes it that we have to change the conversation. If we expect that they will just follow with blind obedience to anything and everything we tell them, then we'll come across more forceful and more direct and just tell them things. If we recognize that they have a choice and they're going to choose things, then we engage them differently so that when we walk away, hopefully after the discussion, the conversation we've had with them, is that they choose to do the things that we talked about, choose to go forward with the guidance that we provided, and choose to go in the direction that's going to be with the best outcomes. So honoring autonomy is critical when we're going into the areas of looking at behavior change, engaging that child, working through difficult conversations and conflict. So that's a piece of acceptance. The next piece of acceptance is giving empathy. Now, empathy we talk about when we talk about compassion. And so we're going to go into empathy within compassion. So I'm not going to go too far there. But do know that empathy is a component of acceptance. The next piece is recognizing current state without judgment. Now, judgment is when we put our values or what we see as right or wrong, good or bad, and we put that on someone else. And when we put that on our children, it can stifle the conversation. It doesn't mean that we can't guide towards values, and it doesn't mean we can't instill values. What it means is when we put it into the conversation through our language, that it causes more of a problem within the communication we're having. Case in point, just imagine for a second that you have a child who wants to run a marathon. And so they've decided they're going to be running, and they decided that they're going to go ahead and start practicing that week. Now, you want to be a helpful parent, so you go out and you talk to them about this. And so far, they've been able to run the block. And you decide that's not enough. If they want to run a marathon, they need to run the marathon today and be able to run it. And so you send them off running that marathon. Now, how successful are they probably going to be? Probably not good. They probably won't succeed, they'll fail, and then they'll feel like they don't want to go forward. However, we do this in many situations. We just expect that people have to be exactly what we think or behave the way that we think they should behave without them having the same belief. And this includes our children. So going into that situation with the marathon and having acceptance, we would look at it as, where are the skills and the abilities of my child at that point? What is the current state? I remove judgment on whether I think they should be doing better or that they aren't excelling fast enough. I get rid of all of those thoughts and I just look at current state. And then we start talking about what can they do and how can they go forward to be successful? What kind of training routine do they need on a daily basis to be able to build the skills to where they're ready to run the marathon? This goes the same in any behavior changes that we're talking about, or when we're talking about having engaging communication, or when we're talking about conflicts. Same thing. If we put judgment into the conversation, it shuts it down, we have more problems. If we can just recognize current state, right? Whether it's just someone's feeling angry or frustrated or hurt or upset or They don't see the benefits of making a change that we're talking about, or the benefits of doing something that we think they should be doing. So we just recognize current state without the judgment. Our fourth part of acceptance is recognizes absolute worth. In this piece, we're withholding judgment again and not placing conditions of worth. So in other words, our children, no matter what they do, no matter what they say, they always have absolute worth. And this needs to be conveyed through our words, our body language, the way we engage with our children, in all the different types of conversations we have. They always have absolute worth. It doesn't matter what they say or do, they have absolute worth. What we don't want to do is make it so that there's conditions on their worth. In other words, certain behaviors or ways that they conduct themselves then becomes contingent on whether they're worthy of our love or positive regard. That's not what we want. In other words, no matter what the behavior or the way they communicate, we still love them, no matter what. And so we can convey that literally, verbally, or we can do it in other ways through our behaviors. But in our heart, we recognize that our child has absolute worth. So again, what acceptance is it's recognized current state without judgment. It's having absolute worth for the child. It's having empathy, which we'll talk about, and compassion. And it's honoring autonomy.